intelligence is a utility like electricity or water, and people buy it from us.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
We continue to flash the warning lights on this. I think the world is not taking us seriously.
Giant tech companies have spent so much on data centers in 2025 that their spending is now contributing more to US economic growth than consumer spending. While AI CEOs have been filling their pockets, you have been suffering the consequences of their greed. Environmental damages, employment instability, and high economic parasitism are what they decided their chatbots were worth. The machine needs fuel, and the cogs need to be kept squeaky clean. But what are these data centers, and why should we be concerned?
Data centers are massive centralized computing facilities, like warehouses that store enormous computers and computing infrastructure. They act as servers where processes like cloud computing and massive data storage take place. For example, every YouTube video ever uploaded to the site is stored in one of these centers. Every time you log in to check your emails from a browser, they're pulled from a data center. And every time you stream a show on Netflix, it's broadcast from a data center to your computer. These servers are centralized because large scale offers several improvements over smaller decentralized systems. According to DataOrts, a cloud computing platform, data centers are typically located in strategic regions where power, cooling, and space are economically viable. Their design allows for efficient resource pooling, redundancy, and control, making them ideal for enterprises requiring reliability, performance consistency, and compliance certifications. Increasingly, these data centers are being used to train and operate large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini as part of the broad AI development boom within the economy. As of March 2025, there are 5,426 data centers in the US, up from around 1,000 in 2018.
You might still be confused where water comes into play in these facilities, and why so much is required. The simple answer is heat. These massive computing facilities involve gigantic CPU and GPU clusters, towers of computer chips that consume enormous amounts of electricity and produce enormous amounts of heat as a byproduct. This heat can't be left inside the data centers because it degrades the very expensive computer chips inside over time and can even melt the electronics involved. This heat has to be vented out of the data center, and quickly. There are several methods available to transport this heat. Your laptop, for example, probably has fans that turn on when the computer chips get too hot, but this doesn't work well at the scale of a data center. The most cost-effective method is called evaporative cooling, which involves draining the heat from these chips into tanks of water which boil away, carrying excess heat with them. This process is cheap, efficient, and relatively simple to build. The only problem is that it consumes a lot of water and requires pure, fresh water, as impure water leads to mineral buildup in the evaporation tanks, reducing efficiency. It's for this reason that fresh water in particular is required, as opposed to the abundantly available salt water in the oceans. This constraint leads us to the Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes are some of the largest freshwater bodies on Earth. According to a report published by the Great Lakes Alliance, the lakes hold 20% of the Earth's surface freshwater, and up to 40 million Great Lakes Basin residents rely on the lakes for their drinking water. This water is such a precious resource, in fact, that in 2008, the surrounding states signed an agreement called Great Lakes Compact, which prohibits the diversion of water outside the basin. This act was signed into law to protect the lakes, but has perversely created the opposite effect by making the region incredibly attractive to data center operators. By increasing the availability of fresh water in the region, in addition to the strong power and telecommunications infrastructure in the area.
The most obvious impact ecologically is the depletion of water from the lakes. Evaporative cooling, as the name suggests, involves the fresh water evaporating away and leaving entirely which means that the water doesn't return to the ecosystem. The rapid increase in data center construction coincides with a historic drop in water levels across the Great Lakes. According to an article from Futurism, compared to 2019, water levels across the 5 lakes are down anywhere from 2 to 4 feet. The secondary impact is depletion of groundwater, leading to a drop in water pressure in wells across the region. According to the Great Lakes Alliance report we mentioned earlier, between 40 to 75% of Great Lakes state residents get their drinking water from groundwater, and the depletion of groundwater could impact existing private drinking water wells and wells used for agricultural irrigation.
As we just discussed, the construction of these new data centers threatens the existing water supply both for households and for the massive agricultural industry in the surrounding states. The construction of these projects has received massive pushback from local communities, and the opposition is both overwhelming and bipartisan.
Despite their unpopularity, state and municipal governments have continued to promote this industry. According to a different report from the Great Lakes Alliance, all of the Great Lakes states have enacted tax incentives over the last 20 years to attract the data center industry to the region. As a consequence of the tax incentives and abundant water, numerous massive projects have been approved by local governments, notably including a massive $15 billion computing facility announced in northern Indiana by Amazon. The argument that local governments tend to make in support of these decisions is the increased investment in smaller, rural economies and the consequent job growth they're intended to stimulate. However, in reality, these data centers create few jobs relative to the scale of the investment and the water and electricity they consume. As explained in an NPR article, this is because, unlike a factory that might need thousands of people to build their product, data centers don't create anything. It's more like a warehouse for computers running on really expensive chips.
A final point to note. After we get over the massive water consumption, the enormous power consumption, and the weak job creation, the business model makes no sense. The capital expenditure for this enormous infrastructure build-out has been financed by aggressive lending and stock market hype, but so far the investment has shown little return. According to Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company plans to spend $1.4 trillion on data centers for the next 8 years, while bringing in $20 billion in revenue a year. According to an NPR article, tech giants including Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta plan to collectively sink around $400 billion on AI this year, some of them allocating 50% of their current cash flow to data center construction. Financial institutions such as Goldman Sachs have warned this enormous investment is unlikely to ever be able to pay for itself, despite the rapid pace of innovation in the industry. The good news is that local resistance has been effective in halting the construction of these data centers. According to the cooldown, at least 48 data center projects were blocked or stalled by local opposition in 2025. And according to an article from Construction Dive, data center project cancellations more than quadrupled to 25 in 2025, from 6 in 2024. In 2003, there were 2 such cancellations. You can do your part to advocate against the construction of data centers in your neighborhoods by scanning the QR code on screen or visiting the attached link in the description. It will take you to a webpage with some more information about the issue and resources to contact your local representatives in Indiana.